What you're about to hear isn't just another talk on kindness or unconditional love. It's a deeper exploration of the human mind, one rooted in the work of Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of all time. If you've ever felt like your kindness backfires, that your good nature is seen as weakness, or that the more you give, the less you receive, this message will explain why. Jung identified a troubling pattern. He noticed it again and again in his patients. Those who believed they were too good were often the ones suffering the most. But what does being good really mean today? Society promotes an ideal of goodness, someone always available, who never says no, forgives instantly, and constantly puts others first. Jung saw this ideal not just as flawed, but harmful. When we confuse kindness with self-erasure, when we treat love as having no boundaries, we slowly destroy ourselves. He discovered something unsettling. The harder we try to be entirely good, the more powerful our shadow becomes. This shadow is the part of us we suppress, deny, and bury under forced politeness. It's like trying to keep a bowl submerged in water. The more you push it down, the stronger it resists. Think of your kindness as a bright light. We're often taught that to keep that light shining, we must hide everything else, our anger, our needs, our limits. But Jung challenged this thinking. Real kindness doesn't come from denying who we are. It comes from accepting every part of ourselves. How many times have you heard your inner voice say enough, only to silence it because good people don't feel that way? How often have you buried frustration or pain, believing those feelings made you unworthy? Denying these parts of yourself doesn't make you better. It makes you more fractured. This message isn't saying you should stop being kind. It's an invitation to move beyond naive kindness, to make it wiser, stronger, and more complete. Because real kindness isn't about avoiding darkness. It's about integrating all aspects of who you are. What you're about to hear may challenge everything you believe about love, sacrifice, and being genuine. But if you stay open, if you allow yourself to question long-held beliefs, you might uncover a truth that sets you free. Real kindness doesn't weaken. It empowers. It doesn't deplete. It renews. It doesn't make you smaller. It makes you whole. This is the tough but honest insight Jung left behind. To truly be good, we must first be whole. And that journey starts by facing the parts of ourselves we've spent a lifetime avoiding. When Jung talked about the shadow, he didn't mean something vague or symbolic. He meant a real psychological force we all carry inside us, the parts we're told to suppress, our anger, desires, right to say no, and our need to be seen. For those who pride themselves on being kind, the shadow can feel terrifying. Their self-worth is built around being the light, always supportive, never flawed. Acknowledging a darker side feels like it would shatter their identity. But denial comes at a cost. When we suppress the shadow, it doesn't disappear. It builds power. It becomes unpredictable, like trying to dam a river with your bare hands. Eventually, it breaks through. Repressed energy doesn't vanish. It distorts. It reemerges in ways we can't control. This happens subtly but destructively in overly kind people. It shows up as bitterness when someone doesn't return a favor. It manifests as silent frustration when personal limits are crossed. It becomes deep sadness when they realize no one truly sees their needs. The more we aim for perfect goodness, the more our shadow undermines us. It's a paradox. Ignore your anger and you become passive-aggressive. Reject your need for appreciation, and you act in manipulative ways. Pretend you need nothing, and you start draining others emotionally. According to Jung, the shadow isn't the enemy. It's a vital part of the psyche. It doesn't just hold our flaws. It also carries our hidden strengths, our power to say no, to defend ourselves, to set boundaries. When we reject the shadow, we don't just lose our darkness. we lose a piece of our light. Imagine someone who spent their whole life trying to be the good one. They were taught that anger is bad, that boundaries are selfish, and that their needs come last. This person doesn't just bottle up anger. They bury their strength, their voice, their right to exist fully. Their kindness becomes a trap of their own making. Jung recognized this isn't real kindness. It's fear disguised as virtue. Fear of being rejected, fear of conflict, fear of not being enough. Truly kind people aren't the ones who never get upset or never set boundaries. They're the ones who've learned to integrate all aspects of themselves into one coherent whole. The shadow, when welcomed, becomes a powerful resource. It's like a hidden garden. Dark, yes, but also full of untapped potential. That's where naive kindness evolves into mature wisdom. For Jung, true spiritual work wasn't about erasing the shadow. It was about learning to live with it, to recognize that our anger is just as sacred as our love, that boundaries matter as much as compassion, that needing recognition doesn't cancel out our generosity. This is the starting point for deeper, more authentic kindness, seeing the shadow not as your enemy, but as a neglected part of you, waiting to be acknowledged and respected. And when you finally face it, you might find that what you feared most is what you needed to feel whole. Blind kindness carries a heavy price. It costs not only emotional energy, but lost potential, unhealthy relationships, and a life lived only halfway. It shows up in the exhaustion of those who give endlessly, the quiet frustration of those who hide their needs, and the deep loneliness of being surrounded by people who never truly understand you. Think about someone who's built their identity on self-sacrifice. They give more than their time and energy. They give away vital parts of themselves. Every time they put others first, silence their voice, or say yes when their inner truth says no, they're losing pieces of their being. The modern martyr doesn't wear visible scars. Their suffering hides in sleepless nights worrying about others, in lopsided relationships, in calendars full of obligations, with no room left for their own life. It's a way of living that society applauds, without recognizing the deep self-neglect it masks. Jung saw that this pattern of overgiving often begins in childhood. Maybe you were the kid who had to be the good one to maintain peace at home. Maybe you were taught that your worth came from how much you could give. These early experiences form invisible chains that drive self-destructive patterns into adulthood, and for people caught in this cycle, their relationships tend to follow a predictable script. They often become the go-to confidant, the dependable listener, the unwavering source of support. But when they finally reach out for help, they're met with silence. People grow so used to receiving from them that they rarely consider offering anything in return. It's a distinct kind of loneliness, being surrounded by those who recognize your kindness but have no real understanding of your inner world. This constant giving leads to more than just physical exhaustion. It creates a deep emotional fatigue. It drains not only energy, but also one's sense of joy and purpose. Slowly, the person disconnects from their own desires, needs and aspirations, becoming a shell of themselves, existing mainly to serve others. Such an imbalance can create an unhealthy dynamic. The kind person becomes essential to everyone around them, yet increasingly invisible to themselves. It's a quiet form of codependency, masked as virtue. But in truth, it becomes a self-made cage. They turn into a resource for others, gradually losing touch with their own humanity. The paradox is that this overextension in kindness doesn't only harm the giver, it also stifles those they try to help. By constantly stepping in, always being available, and shielding others from the outcomes of their choices, the perpetually kind person can prevent growth. What begins as compassion turns into enabling. Eventually, this imbalance breeds resentment, the kind that comes from pouring out everything and receiving little in return. from always being present for others, yet finding no one to lean on when in need, and when this resentment is buried beneath layers of politeness and self-denial, it slowly poisons every connection. This is the real price of unchecked kindness. It's not just energy or time that's lost, but the deeper connection to one's own core. Our desires, boundaries, and essence become diluted, leaving us functioning mainly in service to others. The journey to reclaiming wholeness begins with shadow integration. It's rarely easy. It takes courage, honesty, and the readiness to face truths long ignored. Like switching on a light in a long, darkened room, the initial clarity can be uncomfortable, but necessary for healing and reordering what's been lost. This process starts with a realization that our habitual kindness has often served as avoidance. We avoid confrontation, rejection, and the risk of being misunderstood. Beneath many acts of overgiving lies a deep fear that we won't be loved if we stop. True transformation demands a specific kind of strength, the willingness to let others feel disappointed. It's like rewriting an old unspoken contract with the world. The previous deal was, I'll be whatever you need, just love me. The revised version is, I'll be authentic, even if that doesn't always please you. Integrating. The shadow doesn't mean becoming harsh or cold. In fact, it allows for a deeper, more grounded kind of kindness. It's the difference between a fragile flame and a steady fire, one that warms and illuminates without being extinguished. Real integration brings power, but not the kind that dominates. Cruelty stems from insecurity, fear, and the need to control. True strength, born from shadow integration, comes from self-acceptance. It's standing firm in our truth without needing to diminish others. This more grounded kindness is like a deeply rooted tree. It doesn't assert its power by overshadowing others. Instead, it offers shelter when needed and honors its own boundaries without apology. Those who reach this state discover a meaningful paradox. The more they accept their inner darkness, the more authentically kind they become. Their giving shifts from compulsion to choice. Their generosity stems from abundance, not depletion. Their compassion is powered by resilience, not fragility. But this way of living requires a steady commitment to authenticity. It means acknowledging that anger, too, has a place. Sometimes it signals when our boundaries have been breached. It means accepting that no can be just as sacred as any yes we've ever offered. Integration also involves recognizing that our shadow holds more than fear. It hides gifts. Within it lie our instincts, our discernment, and the capacity to fiercely protect what truly matters. The mature kindness that comes from this place has clarity. It knows when to extend a hand and when to step back. It isn't impulsive. It is intentional. It values both the giver and the receiver, seeing boundaries not as rejection, but as mutual respect. This transformation fundamentally shifts how we move through the world. We stop being candles that burn out to light others' paths and become lighthouses, shining from within, guiding without draining ourselves. Our kindness gains power because it's no longer driven by a need for approval. It stems from wholeness, not fear. It's a form of kindness that includes strength, limits, and the courage to disappoint when necessary. At its core, it's kindness, rooted in truth. Establishing boundaries is something Jung saw as essential to psychological growth. But for those whose identity is tied to endless giving, setting limits can feel like betraying their nature. This is where ancient wisdom becomes especially useful. Boundaries aren't walls. They're sacred markers that define where we end and others begin. The act of creating boundaries begins with something radical, recognizing our intrinsic worth. Not value based on what we provide to others, but the inherent dignity we possess just by being. This isn't selfishness, it's psychological clarity. When we start to truly value ourselves, our way of relating changes. We no longer try to earn love through overextending. We understand that mutual exchange in relationships isn't optional, it's vital, and that realization changes everything. We begin to see that when we let others continually cross our limits, we aren't just hurting ourselves, we're also preventing them from learning respect. Genuine kindness includes the strength to set clear, healthy boundaries. These limits aren't walls. They're what protect both our capacity to give and the dignity of those who receive. People who learn how to create strong, respectful boundaries often notice an interesting shift. They may have fewer relationships, but the ones that remain grow much deeper. Some will fall away when we're no longer constantly available. But the ones who stay are those who truly value us as complete individuals. Learning to set boundaries means developing a new kind of emotional awareness. We start to recognize the difference between genuine guilt and guilt used to manipulate us, between true responsibility and the weight we were never meant to carry. This shift also involves acknowledging that our time, energy, and emotional reserves are finite and precious. We can't give from a place of depletion. Holding our boundaries helps ensure we can continue giving when it's appropriate and when it truly matters. Real protection doesn't come from shutting others out, but from learning to discern when, where, and with whom to share our energy. It's like caring for a garden. It needs clear edges and ongoing attention in order to thrive. When we manage our energy wisely, our ability to be kind doesn't shrink. It grows stronger. Transformation begins when we allow both our light and our shadow to exist side by side. It's not about eliminating one or the other, but about letting them interact, like two rivers merging into a single, more powerful stream. Carl Jung taught that true transformation doesn't come from rejecting our darker sides, but from letting them guide us. Our anger highlights where boundaries are needed. Our resentment shows where we've overextended ourselves. Sadness points to where we require more care. From this integration, authentic strength is born, like gold refined by fire. It's no longer the force of aggression or the fragility of endless people-pleasing. It becomes a mature, balanced power, one that knows when to act, when to pause, when to speak, and when silence is wiser. People who integrate their inner opposites carry a quiet strength. They don't need to prove themselves. Their presence speaks for them, their authenticity is their protection, and their honesty, their strength. They understand that true power isn't about controlling others, it's about mastering themselves. Their wisdom is like a steady flame, capable of warming, but also capable of burning if misused. They've learned that kindness without discernment can be as harmful as power without empathy. Living this way takes ongoing awareness, not out of fear, but from being truly awake. It's like cultivating a well-balanced garden. Some parts need light, others shade, and a wise gardener tends to both. In the same way, we learn to care for both our light and our shadow, understanding that both are essential to who we are. The kindness that results from this integration isn't driven by guilt or fear. It's a conscious decision. It's the kind of kindness that values itself, that can say no without guilt and yes without resentment. It's rooted in peace with one's own shadow, and that peace allows us to face darkness in others. Without fear, transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a continual process, a dance between light and dark, strength and compassion, giving and receiving. Every day gives us another chance to refine this balance, to use our power with intention, and offer kindness from a place of clarity, not exhaustion. And as we embrace this inner change, it naturally impacts those around us. When we allow ourselves to be whole, we inspire others to do the same. When we embody both strength and compassion, we offer a new model of what it means to be fully human. True kindness isn't a limitation, it's a source of freedom. It's not a mask for acceptance, it's the honest expression of who we are. In this state, our strength and compassion come from the same place. Our light and shadow work together to create something more powerful than either could alone. Jung's insight isn't just theory. It's a call to meaningful change. Change begins when we accept that kindness doesn't have to be flawless to matter, that power doesn't need to be feared to be respected, and that wholeness includes both our brilliance and our flaws. When we bring the shadow into the light, when we allow both power and kindness to coexist, we become more complete and better able to build the life we truly want. Now comes the real invitation, to look inward and ask, what parts of yourself have you silenced in order to seem good? What strength have you hidden out of fear of rejection? What boundaries have you avoided because you didn't want to disappoint others? This is your moment to remember. Your kindness doesn't require perfection. Your worth isn't defined by how much you give or sacrifice. Your strength doesn't reduce your ability to love, and your boundaries don't make you any less deserving of love. The transformation Jung encourages isn't about arriving somewhere final. It's a lifelong path. Every day presents the opportunity to choose authenticity over approval, conscious power over weakness, disguised as virtue, and real kindness over automatic self-denial. The world needs more people who've integrated all of who they are, people who understand that true goodness isn't about repression, but about awareness. It needs whole human beings, those who know when to give and when to hold back, who see their boundaries as sacred expressions of love. As you leave this message, remember, you weren't meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole, and in that wholeness, in accepting every part of yourself, you'll find both the strength to create the life you want and the wisdom to live it with integrity. So the real question isn't, are you good enough? The real question is, are you ready to be truly powerful? Not the kind of power that controls, but the kind that transforms. Not power that hides from the shadow, but the kind that integrates it and uses it to build something greater than any single part. If this message resonated, consider subscribing, turning on notifications, and sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's walk this journey of transformation together.